Do you want more success, more growth, more results? Then it's time for the Boundless Success Accelerator from the Modern Observer Group. This isn't your average coaching program. It's where top performers come to dominate. Weekly group sessions, on-demand coaching, a community that's got your back, and a power-packed library of tools to supercharge your business and career. No more excuses, no more waiting. Get in, level up, and start building the life you've been dreaming about. Visit us at modernobserver.com/boundless success to join today. Let's get you to the next level. Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you succeed in your business, career, and life. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. How you doing this week, Chip?
I'm doing great. How about you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. I can't believe how quickly the year is going, but we are heading into Thanksgiving already.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it still doesn't feel like it. Before I got on this podcast, I just went out and cut my grass, probably for the last time this year, but it's as green as it can be. So it's been pretty crazy as far as warm weather goes. In the past, oftentimes we've had snow once or twice by now. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is a special time of year.
it is, and I'm grateful that we did not have to shovel snow yet this year.
I approve your message.
Yes, and of course, given that Thanksgiving is around the corner, we are revisiting our annual tradition and talking about the power of gratitude. And it really is something that everybody needs to embrace for so many reasons. I mean, first of all, the idea that you are grateful for what you have keeps you from trying to keep up with the Joneses. It keeps you from being jealous over other people because you have to remember how much you already have. And I know for a lot of folks that's difficult, but if you look at the actual statistics, if you were born in the United States, the poorest person in the United States has more than 99% of the rest of the world. How can you not be grateful for having more than 99% of other people?
Yeah, and also though, the people in those countries that don't have it do have a whole lot of gratitude for what they do have, and therefore they're known
Yes.
as the happiest people in the world. And that's basically it. I mean, the bottom line is gratitude is not what you have as far as possessions and so on and so forth. What it is all about is your life and relationships and so on and so forth. I mean, we talk about this often, and as you know, I mean, I teach this as far as developing and maintaining a positive mindset. And the key to maintaining that is developing a practice of gratitude. And it's your choice to do that. And basically, the way that it works is just start realizing all the great things you have in front of you. I talk about the gratitude journal that I do every day. I'm just documenting everything that's happened to me during the day. And I'm going into my 11th year of doing that. But you can start out with something very, very simple. And that's a gratitude list. And all that is just writing down all the things you're grateful for, all the people you're grateful for. What are your daily highlights? Do you have a daily mantra? Like today, wherever I go, wherever I'm doing, I will be positive. That's mine every single day. Look outside and see what you got. I mean, if you just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to flip on the positive switch and write down everything that I'm grateful for and put that on a list, that will get you started. And then if you start writing something you're grateful for every day in a gratitude journal and you go back to that every single day, that's what it's all about. And by the way, that gratitude list, if you're stuck about writing something that you're grateful for in the gratitude journal today, you can probably pick something off of that and it'll get your mind reset to do it. But start writing these things down and realizing that. And if you put that forefront in your mind and it becomes a habit to do that, That is the key, but it is a choice. And once you get going on it, there's no looking back, and you're going to be a very positive, happy person, no matter what you seem to have possession wise, because your most important possessions are your relationships and your relationships with everything that we come from, all of our wonderful creation, period.
That says it so well. I mean, we have so much more than we think we do, but we're bombarded by negativity and we don't focus on the things that we're grateful for. I mean, what was the old homily? I was upset that I had no shoes until I met a man that had no feet. It's what you have is the envy of somebody else. So stop focusing on other people and start looking at what it is you have. Are you healthy? You know, if you have a health problem, how are you handling it? You know, I am legally blind and I have diabetes. And I am grateful for every day that I have my limited sight, that I have my diabetes under control. These could be things that I wallow in, but instead I'm grateful for what I have from them because it could be so much worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I forget, I think Agbe Mandino quoted this poem, but I don't think he wrote it. But there's a wonderful poem out there, Forgive Me When I Whine. And I'm going to see if I can find that so I can read that before we finish this podcast. But it's all about thinking about something that's in your life that's a little bit wrong, and then you run into somebody and realize how positive they are with disabilities or whatever that they have going on in their lives. It's just an amazing poem. I'll find that before we get off the podcast. But it's so important. I mean, the bottom line is we were all brought in to this creation with unconditional loving kindness, and that is the foundation of all of us. And it's our choice to continue to go back to our source of that, or to go to the things that we as mankind created with our thirst for knowledge and our free will, which is basically all the differences that we have, criticizing, comparing, and so on and so forth, which leads to the insecurities that we have, even though we are all unconditionally loved and forgiven. If you go back to, it doesn't matter what religion, or if you're not practicing religion, just go back to the source. That's what it's all about. There's no criticism or anything else in there. There's just good. And that's what it is. We're all created equal. And whether you accept that or not, we are all deserving of loving that person in the mirror, because that's where we're from. So go to the mirror and smile at yourself and do that. You're going to feel uncomfortable. But if you go to the mirror every day and give yourself a high five, and from your heart realize that you are a creature of the creator, a lot of us call that God, but whatever that being is that's far beyond all of our comprehension, that's where we're from. And that is the foundation of good and love and all that is good. And the bottom line is that's what you got to get back to and realize that. Whether you feel like you're worthy or not, get out of this unworthy stuff from what was the movie there? Wayne's World or something like that.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard from so many people over the past few weeks, and they're focusing on negative, and there's no reason to. And when you take a look at some of this negativity that's going on, I'm going to touch briefly on politics, but I'm not going to get political. People complain about politics all the time. But when you really look at it, how much of your life does somebody in political office actually have any effect over? Whether you voted for the person or not, no matter what's going on in your state capital, in Washington, D.C., elsewhere, it has so little effect on your life. Look at all of the things you do on a daily basis. We should be thankful that we can do those things instead of focusing on one thing that really doesn't have that big an effect. and just focusing on it and making it this huge thing. Take a look at your day to day life. What did you do first thing this morning? People all the time ask, how's your day going? And I have a tendency to say, any day you wake up and the grass is underneath you is a good day. Take a look at what you're doing and be grateful you can do it. Take a look at who you're meeting with, who you're talking to, and be grateful for those relationships. Take a look at the success that you have. Everybody succeeds at something, and be grateful that you have that.
Yeah, and again, it just goes back, and counting your blessings. And if you get into the habit of writing it down and just sitting down and meditating on gratitude, take a walk outside and really, really appreciate nature around you. Surround yourself with pictures of family and friends or whatever else has been going on in your life and reminisce there. I mean, this past weekend, I was a bachelor because my wife planned a retreat up in Massachusetts, and she's part of this organization where she's a spiritual companion and so on. And last year they had a speaker, and she said, "Why not see if we can get her back for our organization?" And she helped put together that for like 50 people over the weekend. And so Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, here I am. And Thursday night, I go to a choir rehearsal. In Avon, we have 5 or 6 faith denominations, but every year, one of those hosts a gratitude Thanksgiving service the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. And our parish is doing that this year. And so
Nice.
we went to rehearse to sing at that on Thursday night, which was my first night of being a bachelor again. And the director of my choir, her husband, is the person who got me into singing in the first place. And he's from Argentina. Obviously, his wife is too. And now he's a higher up in the whole archdiocese. And she actually became music director of our parish a year and a half ago. And she's running things. And the first song that she brought out was a song that back in 1997, when her husband was the music director at our church and took our choir to Argentina, we sang down there with a choir of college kids. And the name of the song is called All Things Bright and Beautiful. And I never forgot that. And I've always loved that song. So I knew that whole thing when we started practicing, and nobody else knew about it at all. But I was so psyched about that I went back on Friday night, and we had a whole bunch of videos, which I kind of put together for everybody to give out to the group when we got back. And I spent like 3, 4 hours on Friday night just watching all those with gratitude for the concerts that we did down there with the kids and all that other kind of stuff. And then the next night, I just went back to home videos and reminisced about 20 years ago when my kids were kids, like my
Yep.
grandkids are now, and the family and so on and so forth. A lot of you have that there, but whatever they are, instead of wallowing in the past as far as memories of negative stuff that's happened to you, write down those positive things that have happened to you too. Put them down chronologically and keep a list of all the great things that have happened to you as far as vacations or this or that or whatever. A victory log is just something writing down every accomplishment that you've had in your whole life. They're all around you. And once you put those things together, your list is going to be a whole lot longer than any of the negative things that has happened to you in your life. Try it. I guarantee that's what it's all about.
Yeah, see, that's a great experience to be grateful for. Trip down to Argentina, good people, great experience. And most of us, if we think about it, we've had an experience that just filled us with joy. It can be a vacation you took, it could be a wedding, it could be the birth of your child or grandchild. It could be something from elementary school, winning an award, whatever it was. We tend to discount things that we do, going, oh, well, anybody could have done that. Maybe anybody can, but not anybody did. You did it. And you should be proud of that and grateful for having that experience. I mean, I have in my office, I have a drawer. And in this drawer are articles that I wrote, publications I was in, things that I designed, just, you know, 30 years of a career highlights are in this drawer, and I always keep this. And these things have moved with me from, city to city, and, more things go in that drawer. And when I need inspiration, when I need to know, okay, can I do this? I look in there and go, oh, wow, look at all the things that I did. And I'm grateful that I still have these things, but I'm also grateful that I had the opportunity to do them in the first place.
Yeah, and it's so important to remember the why you did those too, because we're both in the
Yes.
business of really helping people out a lot. And obviously, compensation is compensation as far as monetary things, but the relationships that we have as a result of that, and we know that there's a whole lot of great things happening out there because of the words that we and other people spread. I mean, it's not rocket science. Anybody can just go down the street and smile at somebody and make somebody's moment, and they could be having the worst day of their lives. But with what we have done, it's so important to understand that we're doing that unconditionally. And if you want to have a really positive life, that's the way you have to look at life. I mean, basically, the key to developing positive relationships is throwing out these things that we do because of our own insecurities, such as criticizing, complaining, jealousy, and all these things, wanting things that, you know, other people have, when the bottom line is, if you take a look at that list that we just talked about, you have so much going for you, and the other people out there are doing the same thing with you. I mean, how many times have I used the empty courtroom
Yep.
example where you're sitting there and you're accusing yourself of all kinds of problems and you're the judge, but there's no jury because everybody else is doing the same thing. So, as far as positive relationships goes, and the older you get, the more you'll understand that. Obviously, you and I are kind of like veterans of this, and it's basically why we do things, because if it was just for a check, we probably would have started something else a long time ago. But giving unconditionally, just appreciating other people as opposed to looking for something wrong with them, or encouraging them. I always like using a phrase, catch somebody doing something good day, and just build upon that. If you're a boss or you're yourself or anything else, these are different things where if you put these into practice and these are part of your mantras that you have written down on paper and you start drilling them into your head every day as part of your positive morning routine, which I haven't talked about yet, but I have many times before. If you can start every day and end every day with a gratitude routine, it's so important because it sets the tone for your day and it sets the tone for how you sleep. So,
Yes, it does. And, a lot of folks have difficulty with gratitude because, again, we are overwhelmed with negativity in the world, and it does take an effort to push past that. But we tend, again, to discount things that we do or that happen with us, or, things we have. One way to shift out of this is actually to get out of your own head. Look at your life from the perspective of somebody else. What if somebody else had done all the things that you do, or had all the things that you have? How would you view that person? And that's really how you should be viewing yourself. And I was reminded of this quite starkly just a few days ago. I was at a networking event and I went over to a woman that I know because I know she's writing a book. So I wanted to ask her, how is the book going? And she told me it's going great. She was with somebody that she had brought to this event, and she said, I've given my first draft to her to read, so I'm waiting to get feedback and see where we go from there. And then she asked about a client of mine. And I said, "Oh, she's doing great." And she turns to her friend and says the things that my client told her about me. Now, I don't think of these things on a daily basis. I'm there to help my client. That's my job. That's what I'm doing. But from somebody else's perspective, these were fantastic things that I had done. And it was a very stark reminder that you have to get out of your own head and not look at what you're doing from your point of view, but look at it from somebody else's and figure, how do they see this? And it makes it a lot easier to be grateful for things when you realize the impact that it has on someone else.
No, and the impact that it has on you is incredible too, because the bottom line is we know that we're doing that from our heart, and people see that, and people will see right through you if you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. And again, we've talked about creation, and that's where we came from. I mean, our being is that. And whatever we're doing personally and professionally, if that's where it's coming from, the bottom line is once you start doing it and you develop the momentum, watch out. It's a tidal wave. And you're not going to stop doing it that way once you realize that that's why you're doing that. So, no matter what you're doing out there professionally and so on and so forth, and you're doing a whole lot of good, if sometimes you feel like you're unappreciated and so on and so forth, understand the effects that you are having on other people and put that in your heart and saying, this is why I'm doing that. And you might be able to remotivate yourself. I mean, we talked a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago. We had that career coach on, and
Yes.
it's really, really so important. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's actually very, very, very simple that happiness, gratitude is a choice, any present moment. And basically, what this whole thing is about today is put that at the top of your awareness, period. That happiness is a choice, gratitude is a choice every single present moment, knowing that you are going to mess up from time to time. But if you know, picture yourself having a light switch, and at the top it says gratitude, and at the bottom, basically, it's just turning it off to complaining or whatever else. You can flip that up to gratitude anytime you want, period. So the tools that you can do that, we've already talked about a lot. But if you start writing these things down and surround yourself with these as far as visuals and so on and so forth, but most importantly, working on that so that it's your mindset too. That's what it's all about.
Yes. And, you have to be aware of the impact that you have. And most of us don't think about this because it's not something we see. But I'm reminded of a television show from the 80s called Quantum Leap. And in each episode of Quantum Leap, Sam Beckett, who was the main character, leapt into a situation. He would travel through space and time, leaping into these situations, and he could not leap out until he figured out who he was there to make a difference in their life. And in the last episode, he's talking about this. And he says, but I haven't accomplished anything. And the person he's talking to says to him, he says, you've changed people's lives. And he goes, well, yes, I've made little changes here and there. And the person says, oh my God, I'm dealing with Mother Teresa here. Do you think those people didn't change other lives? And then they changed other lives. Every change you make, every impact you make is a ripple that magnifies. And when you think about that, think about how much of an impact your life has on other people and the impact that they have on you. This is something to be grateful for. This is when you understand how all of these lives interconnect and how you've actually made lives better for people that you don't even know. And people you don't know have impacted lives that ultimately impacted you.
Yeah, absolutely. The bottom line is, we always hear about diseases and things like that being contagious, but positivity and gratitude is the most contagious thing that's out there. And once you start spreading it, you have no idea how far it's going to go, but you know that it's going to go all over. And that's just the way things are. So picture yourself that way. Picture yourself as a carrier of a very, very positive, I'm not going to call it a virus. I'm just going to call it a movement called gratitude and positivity because that'll spread faster than anything else. And you know that because if you walk into a room for a positive lecture or so on and so forth, it doesn't matter how down, but if you're with a whole bunch of different people and the topic is positive, all of a sudden the whole room is throwing out all the problems in their lives and they're into the positive role. And you and I experience
Yep.
this all the time when we talk, when we go to networking meetings, when we're not doing that. If we just walk up and start talking about some fun things and so on and so forth, they call it a positive buzz or a vibration or whatever it is. But it doesn't take a whole lot to get that going. And if you try and do that, and then you try and talk about negative stuff and see how fast that spreads around, you're going to have people disagreeing with each other. So that's not going to happen as fast as the positivity goes. So it's it again, it's
It,
just the way it is.
it is. And, there's another side to gratitude. We've talked about being grateful for what you have and what you've done and what others have done for you. But the other side of gratitude is forgiveness. When someone does something wrong, and just as important, when you don't live up to your own expectations. You need to be able to forgive. Forgive yourself for not living up to your expectations, forgiving somebody else for something they might have done to you. Forgiveness and gratitude are two sides of the same coin. And when you feel forgiveness for somebody and you suddenly realize, you know what? They're doing the best they can. And you can then be grateful that they did try the best they could, even if it didn't work out, even if it hurt you. You have to be able to forgive and understand. And all of these things go hand in hand, the gratitude, the understanding, the forgiveness, because these are things that are acknowledging yes, things are not perfect, but things don't have to be perfect. Our lives are not about perfection, they're about progress. It's about making tomorrow just a little bit better than today is. And when you focus on that and you spread that feeling, that positivity spreads. That, and quite frankly, especially where forgiveness is concerned, if you have it in yourself to forgive others for things they've done, rather than getting angry or holding grudges, you're in a much better place. You're happier, you're healthier because you're not letting this one event live in your subconscious or conscious and bother you. So you let go and you experience the gratitude, you experience the forgiveness, and it really is amazing when you feel it happen.
Absolutely.
All right, we are coming up on the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for our listeners this week?
Well, I'm not going to read you the whole poem, but what Give Me When I Whine is all about is it starts out today I saw on a bus, I saw a girl with golden hair. She seemed so happy. I envied her and wished that I were half as fair. I watched her as she rose to leave and saw her hobble down the aisle. She had one leg, used a crutch, but as she passed, a smile. Oh, God, forgive me when I whine. Blah, 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 blah. So he went down with so many different things. And the last paragraph says, forgive me when I whine. I have two ears in the world is mine, two legs to take me where I go, two eyes to see the sunsets glow, two ears to hear all I know. It's just, I'm getting a little bit emotional reading it, but I'm sure you are too. The bottom line is the answer starts and ends in the mirror. That's you. And if you realize and forgive yourself for all your perceived thoughts and realize that you can be this present moment the best version of yourself just by going out there and feeling gratitude and practicing gratitude and sharing it with others using the tools that we just talked about today. That's what's so important. And I'm going to close with a quote that I think kind of sums the whole thing up. And it says, gratitude is when memory is stored in the heart and not the mind, by Lionel Hampton.
Nice. Yeah, that's fantastic. And, we are coming up on Thanksgiving, which is why we're talking about this. And there's so many people talking about, oh, don't talk about this, at the Thanksgiving dinner. And there's so much not to talk about. Don't worry about that. Talk about your common experiences. Any two people have more in common than they have differences. Focus there and be grateful for the people you're spending Thanksgiving with, for the people that you can't spend Thanksgiving with, and a special thought for those people who are alone on Thanksgiving. And if you're one of them, be grateful that there are people thinking about you. It's all about the gratitude, not just spreading the message, but feeling it and understanding that you have so much and you've done so much and it's not over yet. So we will be back after the Thanksgiving holiday. So I wish all of our listeners a very happy Thanksgiving. And of course, you've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch every episode at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.